Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of 3 Point Weekly. We're recording this on the last day of the NBA season, and so it seems only fitting that we are going to be discussing our 2021-22 NBA award picks. Briefly, before we get into it, shout out to Joel Embiid, who is officially now the leading scorer on the year. Much credit to him on a very good season, and I'm sure we'll talk about him later when we talk about the MVP discussion. But we'll start off with probably the most straightforward of the awards, the Sixth Man of the Year. I'll pass this off to you first, Tyrik, but this is probably the least discussion we'll have to have about any award.
Hey, shout out to Tyler Hero for making one of my preseason picks look good the entire year. Probably the most important offensive player for this Miami Heat team. We didn't even put together three candidates. It's been Tyler Hero's award since pretty much the first month of the season. Shout out to him. He's going to take home this award for sure.
And no suspense, getting right into it. But yeah, no top three necessary. It don't even matter. He clears. When he went out for a couple games, Miami looked terrible. And so if that doesn't tell you his impact on the game, I mean, I don't know what will. That's the guy.
Did y'all see somebody on Twitter? I think it was John Hollinger. I think he was really trying to make a case where he was saying Kevin Love's my sixth man of the year.
That was wild. That was wild. I quote tweeted that because he said something to the extent of he didn't want a shot chucker like Tyler Hero winning the Sixth Man of the Year. And I went and looked. I was like, Tyler Hero has better efficiency than Kevin Love on the year. That doesn't even hold up.
Just look at his impact on winning games.
Exactly.
He's more than just a scorer. He actually has games where he has 7-8 assists sometimes off the bench. Come on, man. There's literally no argument for anybody else, bro, at all.
He probably came into this season arguably like a fourth option, and he might be the most important player to that team. So that says a lot.
Yeah, it was a prove-it type of season for him, and he's definitely proved, that his rookie season wasn't like a fluke. He's actually this good of a player.
Yeah, 100%. Shout out to him. Man's definitely earned his bag. He'll fully get in the offseason, and he'll comfortably win the Sixth Man of the Year award. Moving on to most improved player, I think is where we'll go next. A lot of good improving young players.
Let's do Coach of the Year first.
Coach of the Year? Okay, we'll go Coach of the Year.
I think MIP is a little spicy. I ain't gonna lie. I feel like we might all have three different players.
I agree.
But Coach of the Year, I had Monty. I think he should have won it last year, honestly. But they've been the best team all year. I think they just won 64 games on the year to have a chance to make it 65 today. Been the best team all year, and they've dealt with their fair share of injuries, COVID issues, and this team has not wavered. Even when Chris Paul and Devin Booker missed time, they were still able to be competitive and win games. So I think Monty deserves this. I also had Taylor Jenkins in there and Ime Udoka. Those were my guys that rounded out the top three. But I think Monty, he's the clear-cut choice in my opinion.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I do think it's honestly a bit closer than you're making it seem. I mean, Taylor, having your star player out and having that insane record without him there is incredibly impressive. But at the same time, I feel like Monty's dealt with stretches where people are out as well. And they're literally 10 games better than the Grizzlies, who are the second best team in the league. And then with Udoka, it's just poor start to the season makes it really weird to give him a full season award. But if it was just based off the second half, he might clear.
Yeah, I agree. Monty Williams was my pick as well. The Suns have definitely battled with their fair share of injuries over the course of the year, and they've fared very well with it. The only difference I have in my picks is JB Bickerstaff being my third option. The Cavs greatly overperformed on the year, even though they have slipped in the back half of the year due to some injuries. They're still comfortably over 500. They're comfortably ahead of the timeline from where many people thought they would be. And I think he deserves some credit in there as well. But Udoka's definitely done a great job as a first-year coach as well. A lot of good coaching performances this year in general with a lot of teams that have dealt with some injuries. So shout out to those guys. They've definitely done their job. But Monty Williams and the Phoenix Suns have been the best team on the year. And he's fully deserving of that award, no doubt about it.
Definitely. Now we can get into the juicy awards because the last four ones that we got left, I think – I had some trouble with some of these, man. I had some real trouble with some of these awards.
100%. Yeah, I think I'll go with MIP. I think we'll go from there.
All right. I want to go first just because y'all might grill me for these takes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start from the bottom. At number 3, I got Anthony Simons, right?
Okay.
Because I feel like he came into the season. People probably thought this dude was a nobody, bro. Like they're like, oh yeah, that guy that won that really boring dunk contest. But bro, he came out this year. Dame went out. We said, okay, somebody's gonna have this opportunity. A lot of shots to take. He stepped up, and it wasn't even like he was just a chucker. He had crazy efficiency. So he might have been first for me if he like played more of the season, but he's missed like a lot of time now, so that kind of knocked him down. Second, I got DG. I feel like he showed those flashes last season. He did a lot of really good things, but this year was just a whole new level running that offense for the Cavs, who, like Devin just said, greatly overperformed this year. So I wanted to give him some respect somewhere on this award show, I guess, that we're doing. Since I guess, spoiler, if it's not really a spoiler, I don't really have him anywhere else. But number 1, I don't even know if he would qualify here, but I just had to. I put Ja. Just like, he was already kind of a star last year, but the leap that he's taken this year, just taking over the league by storm, I feel like that's your classic most improved player, is a guy who you're like, oh, he might, usually it's like out of nowhere, but it's always that guy that just randomly takes the league by storm, becomes kind of that media darling, young guy, leading his team to a lot of wins. They were like an 8 seed last year, and they were probably expected to be in the playoff contention, but not at the highest level that they've been at. So, Ja Morant.
Man, that was a cop-out pick, Gabe.
I feel like that's just the pick. I don't know.
I respect it. I guess I'll go next then. I had Ja as my third guy, and the only reason I had him at third is because I think we kind of expected him to take that leap into stardom this year. Like, I think that was pretty much expected after they made the playoffs last year, and just somebody that's gotten better each season of his career. I think it was kind of expected. He did take a big leap, but I don't know. I just can't give him this award because it's kind of expected, man. Number 2, I got Jordan Poole, another third-year guy who really took strides forward, and especially over like the last 25 or so games, he's been on a different level. He's been going crazy. But my winner is somebody who I think fits the criteria of like a traditional most improved player type guy. Somebody that's been in the league like 5 seasons now, DeJounte Murray. He took that leap, became an all-star this season. Numbers are up across the board, and he's really like almost single-handedly, him and Keldon Johnson are the reason why the Spurs are even a playing team. Like, nobody expected them to be a playing team this season, and they've done that, and they've been playing exceptionally well the second half of the season, and a lot of that is due to DeJounte Murray just taking strides forward and becoming an all-star in this league. So he's my winner for this award.
Hey, I like those picks. I would have liked to show love to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, since we didn't do like a top 3 6-man of the year list, I definitely would have had Poole as number 2 on there. Like, he was in contention for a couple things.
Yeah, definitely. There's been a lot of good improving young talent across the league this year. There's definitely a lot more than a top 3 of elite improving young players over the course of the season. But shout out to DeJounte Murray, no doubt. He's my number 3 on my most improved players list. As you mentioned, Tyrik, he's a big reason why the Spurs have been anywhere near as competitive as they have been this year. Both ends, playmaking, scoring, rebounding. He does everything at a good level for the Spurs team and just impacts winning in every possible way a point guard can. Darius Garland was my number 2. He had a nice improved year on a Cleveland team that has significantly improved as well. And Ja was indeed my first pick as well.
Okay.
Even though he was expected to have such an improved season, if I was going under the unexpected type of jump, then I would probably go with the Jordan Poole or an Anthony Simons. But simply based on type of improvement from last year to this year, Ja's had one of the bigger jumps in the league, even though he was already good last year. I had to give him his respect for that. Memphis have been one of the most improved teams in the league in turn because of his improvements. But there's no doubt that there's a lot of good candidates for this award. Darius Garland, DeJounte Murray, Jordan Poole, amongst others. A lot of good young talent in the league that's up and coming. We're in a good spot for talent in the NBA. There's no doubt about that.
I will say I'm very surprised neither of you guys had Anthony, but I will also say I feel like usually with this award, it's always like the guy that leads their team to a random like playoff berth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that kind of makes sense why he wouldn't be there. But like if you think in the past, it's like Julius Randle, team is randomly like a 5 seed or a 4 seed, 4 or 5, one of those. Same with like Victor Oladipo a couple years ago, just comes out, leads that team to like a middle of the pack. If the Cavs would have kept it up, I think that would have made it Darius's award, truly, because that would have been that same sort of, oh, guy was pretty solid, and then he leads his team to like the 4 seed being great.
No, facts. I would have probably had Anthony in my top 3, but he hasn't played in so long. Like I haven't seen him play basketball since like February or something. It's been a minute since he's been on the court, man. But he was somebody before the season I was expecting to take a nice step forward. I didn't expect it to be to this magnitude. Obviously, injuries played a part in that. But when he was the sole guard on the court, he was looking like one of like the top 15 guards in the league, honestly. Like he was killing, man.
Yeah, it really was. Very good season for him. I definitely thought about putting him on my list. I'm going to be honest. I was just a lot higher on him last year than I think most people were, so I didn't consider it as much of an improvement. He obviously improved a lot, but a lot of it was just opportunity and consistent opportunity for him this year. He showed a lot of the same skill sets last year, and he definitely improved a lot this year as well, but he was balling last year at moments as well when he got some opportunity. He just fully put it together this year and got that level of consistent opportunity as well. So shout out to him. Hopefully Portland give him a good opportunity and he can continue to succeed in a backcourt with Damian Lillard next year or otherwise, depending on what they do with that roster.
Yeah. Who was y'all's pick before the season? I'm curious. Who was y'all's guy before the season?
MIP before the season would have been Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think we talked about that a couple months ago on the pod. I was really high on him heading into the year. I thought he was going to have a really good season. He looked so good as a starter last year in limited time, and it just didn't happen.
I can't remember super clearly what my mindset was because that was like a while ago now. But I feel like if I would have had to place it down on anybody preseason, I probably would have picked Michael Porter Jr. With Jamal Murray out coming in, him and Jokic. I knew he was going to get a lot of good looks and be that second guy. So
yeah, I'm looking. I actually got my list right here. My top 3. 1 was Nickeil, 2 was MPJ, and 3 was Kevin Porter Jr.
KPJ, that would have been a solid pick, to be honest.
He's been hooping lately for sure.
He has been good as of late. He has been good as of late. I'll give him that. There was definitely a lot of people that thought he was going to have a really good year because I remember my video on him in the summer got absolutely flamed on for not thinking he was going to have a great year. So there was definitely a lot of hype around him, and deservedly so. But he has been good over the last couple of weeks. Him and Jalen Green have both been balling out for sure.
Most definitely. So what we got next, man? Depoy,
I guess. Yeah.
Devin, you go ahead, go first. You haven't went first on any of these yet.
Okay. Rudy first. No.
Nah, you tripping, man. Blowing all these leads, man.
Not in my top 3.
I do have Rudy in my top 3, but he is not first. I do have him at
all these leads.
I do have him at number 3.
Okay.
He does get a lot more discredit than what he deserves. There's definitely a case for him being limited in many defensive situations, but he plays around a poor defensive team as a whole. And the way the narrative is with Rudy is that we see in the general media a lot more of the negative things of Rudy Gobert than the positives.
Yes.
And so ultimately, Rudy does get a little bit more disrespect and a lot less credit than he sometimes deserves. Does he have limitations on defense at times? Certainly, but he's the best rim protector in the league for a reason. Does he have limitations outside of that level of rim protection? Certainly, but no one quite has that level of ability at the rim that he has. And this Utah team would not be anywhere near where they are without him. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they're not even a play-in team, or at least they're a low-end play-in team in and around the 8 to 10 seed. So his impact is quite large on this team. Limited, sure, but he deserves his credit. But then my top 2 wasn't really too much of a debate of them being top 2. It was just what order I was putting them in. I went with Jared Jackson Jr. at number 2. Okay. His impact for the Grizzlies has been extremely good this year. I'd argue maybe not quite to a level extent, but not far off that him out of the lineup is close to, if not as impactful of Ja being out of the lineup for this Memphis team, just due to how much value he brings to them on the defensive end. The few games he has missed this year, which to his credit, he has been very available this year compared to his previous seasons. This defense doesn't look anywhere near as good without him. He's one of those few players in the league that has elite rim protection, but also has very good mobility, can switch out on the perimeter, can guard pick and rolls quite well with his ability to defend in space. But ultimately, I did give Giannis the nod at number one. He just does that level of defense with that level of length and athleticism that Jaren Jackson Jr. has at a slightly higher level, with slightly more NBA experience and NBA knowledge on the defensive end. Giannis just brings it every night. He's one of those superstars that he's not coasting during the regular season. He's not taking games easy. He's there night in, night out. The one criticism, of course, for Giannis is always he's not necessarily defending the best player on the opposing team, specifically at times in the regular season. But he's able to impact in so many other ways when you're talking about help defense, protecting the rim, jumping in on steals, being able to read the entire offense and make call outs and reads from there. His defensive impact is so great with his athleticism and his defensive skill. He had to be my number one again this year.
Okay, I'm not mad at it. I think this is another award where it's like you could have maybe 3 or 4 names that honestly deserve this award. So the fact you have Giannis, I'm not mad at it at all. You want to go, Gabe, or
no? I think you should go. I think you should go.
All right. I will let it be known Rudy did not make my top 3. And I also don't have Giannis in my top 3 either.
And now is that okay?
I don't know.
This is the biggest discrepancy we've had.
Probably. My only thing with Giannis, obviously, we know how amazing of a defender he is, especially help defense. But the Bucks defense hasn't been as great this year as in past years. I know some of that's due to, they lost PJ in the offseason. Brook Lopez missed the majority of the season too. But, they still have some quality NBA defenders on that team. And they took a step back. And I'm holding that against Giannis just a little bit. And you made a great case for Rudy on why he's one of the best rim protectors of all time, obviously. But I'm honestly just fatigued of seeing him win this award. So I don't got him top 3. And the Jazz have not been as potent as a defense as they have been in previous years. My number 3 is Bam. Bam is a staple for this Miami Heat team, man. He can legit guard 1 through 5 any given night. Super impactful defender. I don't really think he gets enough credit for what he does on the defensive side of the floor. If he didn't miss a nice chunk of the season, he would probably have a case for me to win this award like outright. But I got him number 3. Number 2, same as you, Devin. I got Jaren Jackson Jr. I remember there was a game. It was against the Knicks. Man's had like blocks on like 3 straight possessions, bro. Like he single-handedly won that game, bro. And that's just like etched in my memory. And he's been one of the best shot blockers all year long. Another guy that can guard multiple positions. Very good. And like you said, the fact that he's been able to play a lot of games this season, that's been the biggest knock on him so far. And he's showing how impactful he is, especially on the defensive side of the floor. And this might be a homer pick, and I don't care. It's either Marcus Smart or it's Robert Williams. It's one of the two. I'm going to go with Smart since Rob Will has missed the last few weeks with his injury. But either way, both of those guys super impactful for the best defense in basketball. I think that's a big part of it. And Smart's probably not going to win it because the advanced analytics and stuff they favor bigs a lot more. But, man, the other night against the Bucks, he was guarding Giannis down the stretch, and he was making plays and almost gave the Celtics a chance to win that game. And when Rob Will was on the court, man, he was really the quarterback of this defense, just making a lot of different plays. His rim protection is just superior, man. I think one of those two guys, in my eyes, they should win this award. But like I said, you can't go wrong with Giannis. You can't go wrong with Jaren. If you got Bam, I'm not mad at that either. This is still a wide open race at the end of the day.
Well, this is fun. I would say you guys have talked about what, like 5 different players up to this point?
I think 5 so, yeah.
And I still got a guy that's not on either of you guys' list. I will say, in this era of play, I think being a versatile defender is the most important thing. I think being able to guard multiple positions when you're guarding pick and rolls, guarding switches, everything like that, That being said, the guy I had to put at 3rd because I have to give him his respect is Mikal Bridges, man. This dude is just so crazy to watch play defense. He might be the best on-ball defender in the league. as it's just all the things he can do. It just feels like he can be anywhere and everywhere. Now, he does have other good defensive pieces around him, so it doesn't look like the defensive carry job of a lot of other guys. But just the eye test, just, oh my goodness. It is, I can't even really put it into words. It's just like when you got arms that long, it's crazy. And then number 2, I had to put Giannis out of respect. The man, I feel like he just kind of does it all for the Bucks at this point defensively. I shouldn't say it all because they still have Drew Holiday and a couple other pieces, but just so much. We know what he can do. Obviously, he won it last year. And the defense as a whole has been worse, but I feel like he still does his job really well, especially with the offensive load he's given. The fact that he can be a two-way player to that degree, incredibly impressive. I also, before I list my number 1, I wanted to give a shout-out to Jared Allen because
Yes.
he was so nice defensively. Cavs were like a top 5 defense, I think, and 4th for a lot of the season. He went out, team fell far. And a lot of people said, oh, I mean, it's not just him. You know, he has Evan Mobley right next to him, another great defender. Defense still fell off pretty significantly after Jared left. So his importance cannot be understated. But my number 1 is Jaren Jackson, man. I think it shows he was the only common factor between both of your guys' lists, which shows, I mean, he obviously has a case no matter who you talk to. And it's just like, this team has been a great defense, and not only has he been the best defender on this team, for a quarter of the season, he's been the best player on the second team and like second best team in the league, doing that specifically through his defense. Like with him as the best player, this team is literally like, what, they've lost 2 games?
Yeah.
I think that's very, very deserving of recognition. And so I think, given all that, I just had to give him this award. I think it's his time. It'll always be fun to see a new guy win it. Jaren Jackson, man, I don't know what else you can say. Both of you guys already kind of said enough.
Yeah, no, 100%. His leap defensively and quality defensively as a whole this year has been very impressive. And as you mentioned, Gabe, shout out to Jared Allen. Him not getting injured and Bam being healthy earlier on in the year would have completely changed how this award went. They're both fully deserving of their defensive respect and how much they've impacted their team's defenses this year. But yeah, Jaren Jackson, I mean, like, he's still so young. There's probably still just more improved defense to come from him moving forward. He's going to be a special talent. The duo of him and Jaw moving forward is going to be so dangerous.
Those Michigan State power forwards, man.
It's not even defensively for him, man. His offensive game is still taking strides too. He's low key like a big guard. Like he makes plays off the dribble pretty well for somebody that's like 6'11", and he keeps getting taller every year, which is crazy. But yeah, super talent.
100%. I mean, yeah, this guy is 22.
It seems like he's been in the league so long.
Sky is still the limit for him, no doubt. I could definitely see a future where he's a defensive player of the year candidate and he's averaging 22, 23 a night with a few dimes and 7-8 rebounds. Like, he's a special talent for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, I could definitely see him winning this award. Honestly, this is probably the most competitive race out of everything. We know the MVP race is stacked, but this is the award where it's like, I don't think there's really consistency anywhere. Like some guys might still have Rudy, some guys got Giannis, some guys got Jaren, and there's the people that say Smart should win it, or even Mikal. Like it's all over the place.
Yeah, no, definitely. This is by far the deepest competition of any award. This can go 5 or 6 deep, and I can be like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Like there's a lot of good picks for defensive player of the year, no doubt. There's other awards where it's like, yeah, okay, there's 2 or 3 guys that it's really tough to choose between, but this is a really deep pool of talent for defensive player of the year this year. As far as rookie of the year goes, let's start with the most unbiased of the 3 in the room, I suppose. We'll go with the non-Raptors fan.
Hey, man, that's crazy. This might have been the toughest award because the top 3 is pretty evident. It's just a matter of what order do you have them in. And I got Scotty at 3. I got him at 3.
Boo.
For reference, I don't take team success into the rookie of the year race. I don't take that in. Number 2, if he didn't get hurt, he would be my winner, but he missed a little bit of time. and I think it was an important stretch. I got Evan Mobley at number 2, and I got Cade winning it, bro. I've been trying to push this agenda all year. I've never seen a number 1 pick get so little, I guess, like coverage. Like nobody really talks about Cade that much. You know, it's always been. It seems like he's been like the third wheel in this class, man. But he's just been steady. 15, 5, and 5, I think, are his numbers. Detroit's been okay. Like they've won some games second half of the season, and the future looks bright with him being their lead guy, man. I think he's gonna be somebody like how we talked about Ja. Like he's gonna take some big steps within these next couple seasons. I love his game. Obviously, like I said, you can't go wrong with either candidate. I think all 3 of these guys are deserving of this trophy, but I'm gonna just go with Cade, and y'all can go ahead and tell me why you got Scotty Barnes winning it.
That's crazy, man. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you can go next, Devin.
I do have Scotty at 1. I definitely do.
Man, that's crazy, bro.
I did incorporate winning, which is not something I typically do for the Rookie of the Year award. I didn't know how else to discern it, if I'm going to be completely honest. This was such a tight award. And any other year, as you mentioned, Tyrik, all 3 of these guys could have won, and in this year are deserving of winning Rookie of the Year. They all had great rookie seasons. Even Franz Wagner would have a case in some rookie cases. He had a great year of his own, even though he's not necessarily being mentioned as a top 3 candidate. He's had a very good under-the-radar season as well. And to your point, Tyrik, Cade Cunningham has got to be the most underpublicized, underrepresented in the media first overall pick we've had in a long, long time, at least in the social media era. Part of that's probably due to the fact that Barnes and Mobley are on winning teams and Cade's not, but even still, he's been so underrepresented, so under-talked about, and he's had a great rookie year. Man, I genuinely don't feel confident about any of these guys being over one another. They all had great years. They all have played well on both sides of the ball. Scotty can play make, Cade can play make. They all have shown that they're going to have multiple layers to an offensive game when they hit their prime. Like, there's so much special talent here. You could put any of these guys 1 through 3. I can't really make an argument against it. They're all great talents. I put Scotty at 1, probably because of slight bias. And Mobley's been great. Cade's been great. I honestly don't have a strong argument either way. They've all been great.
I don't even think it's biased for real. Scotty's had a great year. He's been amazing.
Yeah, I think I got to add a contingency here that out of these 3, I think that Cade will be the best player in the future, but I do have him at 3. Just because I think his flashes of like how great he can be, I think they've been the highest out of anybody. Just to see him like really the guy that leads your offense, I feel like, and like runs that is usually the most important guy on a team. And the fact that he's already kind of showing that he's going to be that, it's not like he's been kind of okay at some points. Like we might have something here. No, they have something there. Like he's that guy. I will say when you guys are talking about like under-publicized number 1 picks, I think that's kind of a good thing because it's like the under-the-radar thing. You know, everybody likes to hop on somebody, and then the second they have a little bit of struggle, you know, they tear him down. But I don't think he'll be teared down like that since nobody's really talking about him now. I mean, he's just going to go out there and impress, and then people are going to finally notice, and it's going to be good things. Number 2, I got Mobley. I feel like, you know, probably pretty obvious. He went out. I think how you finish is very strong to a Rookie of the Year campaign, given like the notoriety of like the rookie wall falling off halfway through his season, all that kind of thing. And so him not being able to finish the season really hurt. But I mean, he was in number 1 most this season. If he played all the way through, I probably would have put him there. Great defender, very high IQ, high level for being a rookie. But number 1 is Scotty. I just got to be Scotty, man. Here's the thing about Scotty. I feel like statistically, all 3 of these guys are pretty dang close to each other, right?
Yep.
Scotty, though, it's like he's so low in the totem pole. He might be like the 5th option on this team some nights because it's like Gary Trent's going to shoot that ball. Fred VanVleet was an all-star. Pascal Siakam might be all-NBA. And then OG missed some time, but if he's there, I feel like he at least came into the season higher on the pecking order than Scotty. And so it's like he's doing that as possibly a 5th option. And then as the Raptors had guys out all the time, it seemed like it was always a different lineup. He would consistently step up and show that, like, okay, yeah, I'm nice like that, already a very mature, contributing to winning player. And stepping up when other guys go down, it's like he just kind of fits in wherever you need him to. Super versatile. It could be Gary Trent went down as a shooting guard, or it could be like Pascal missed the beginning of the season as a power forward, and he's just going to slot in and he's going to do what you need him to do. And I mean, it shows for my like depoy picks how much I value versatility, but the fact that he just has that already, as well as just a great all-around game, got to go with Scotty Barnes.
Yeah, I think what you just said, Gabe, is something that I did just think about too, is that he's like a fourth or fifth option some nights. Because you mentioned Freddie, you mentioned Gary Trent, Pascal's been killing, and he's still averaging 15 points a game. Like, he's still doing his thing every single night. And when you do factor in winning, I think like that can make a definite difference, obviously, because Scotty's one of the most important players on the playoff team. Evan Mobley's probably like the second most important defensive player on a team that was, top 10 in defense most of the season. And then Cade is he's putting up good numbers on a poor team. But I think even that is still kind of impressive because he doesn't really have anybody taking the load off of him, because Jeremy Grant's been in and out the lineup and stuff. And he's really the sole guard that, makes this thing go because Killian Hayes ain't never really on shit. You got Corey Joseph getting minutes and stuff. So that's why I think each of these guys, like we just said, have legit cases to win this award. And even if you go a little deeper, like you mentioned, Franz, he's been very good. If you factor in Jalen Green's post All-Star numbers, some people might say, hey, he should get a little bit of conversation. We said this plenty of times on this podcast, but this rookie class has done some sensational things this season, man. And the future is bright for a lot of the guys that got drafted last year, for sure.
I think what sets these top three apart, though, is just if you look at every person in this draft class and say, I can imagine that guy being a perennial all-star. It's these three guys. All of them, I think within 4 years,
I think
will be on the
Green.
All-Star team.
I think Jalen Green too. I'm still pretty high on Jalen Green.
Yeah,
I think you'll get a couple. I don't know if you'll get as many as these three, but I think
he's there. Although I do think his impact on winning will probably be slightly less. His scoring will be there. I don't think his impact on winning is quite as much though.
Also, just to add a little bit of nuance, being an all-star, for Scotty and Evan, it's a lot easier to make it as a forward in the East than a Western guard. I will say that.
Very true. But yeah, like you just said, I think these three guys, and I'll throw Jalen in there too. I feel like their ceiling is we don't know what it's going to be, but I think guys like Franz and Josh Giddey, they're going to be very good players. But I think there's the cap on how good that they will actually be in the league. But I don't want to put a roof on too many guys though, because people always prove those expectations wrong. But man, y'all really went with the homer pick. It's crazy.
I probably, if Mobley finished this season, I think I would have picked Evan Mobley, to be honest.
I'm just playing. I had a homer pick for defensive player of the year.
I know we didn't even have that guy. We literally didn't even have any Celtics on our lists, and you had them at number one.
The number one defense, bro.
It's just because, okay, the thing with the Celtics is if you look at their lineup, there's just so many good defenders that it's just this is a great defensive team.
Man, I'm about to make this Rob Williams video sometime this week, and it's gonna be a film breakdown, Gabe, and I'm sending it to you when I make it, just to show you this man really quarterback.
It's just think of the fact that you gave it to Marcus Smart because you're he can go to either of them. Think of the MVP races in 2017, 2018, where it's KD and Steph would easily be at the top of the MVP race, but they played with each other, so it took it away. Rob and Marcus both play with another amazing defender.
Well, you can say the same exact thing because the thing around the league is Jrue Holiday is the best on-ball defender in basketball. Kevin Durant will say that. Devin Booker will say that. These guys say Jrue Holiday is the best. So you can make the same case for Giannis. He's playing.
That's why I had Jared number one. That's fair. That's fair for sure.
But then you can also say, well, this team, overall, is still a very good team, no matter who's on the floor. So you can make the same argument for, Jared. You can make the same argument for Giannis. The only guy that really doesn't have that argument is Rudy, because he doesn't really play with any really good defenders other than Royce O'Neal.
Yeah. I think the the Celtics being a team of really good defenders, and so that takes away from someone's defensive player of the year case would be a lot stronger if the Celtics weren't like heads and tails above the rest of the pack for how good their defense was for those few months after January before Robert Williams went down. Like it was them, and then it was everyone else. It wasn't, oh, Boston are good, but the Suns are close, and there's a couple other teams that are close. So not to say that the Suns and a couple other teams didn't have really good defenses, but the Celtics were just absolute heads and tails above everyone else. It's one of the best defenses we've seen in the league over the last 5 or 10 years.
It's just like, man, you're talking about like Jaylen Brown might be your 5th best defender.
Might be your 6th best defender.
Like, that's an insane
I'm disrespecting Jaylen Brown.
That's not disrespected. That's not disrespected Jaylen Brown. You like Tatum is a better defender. Smart's a better defender. Williams is a better defender.
I think JT's a better defender now.
Yes.
Oh, 100%. He's better off ball than Jaylen Brown.
A lot of defense is effort.
Better as an overall defense.
JB he still does have lapses off ball. But
as far as an on-ball defender, Jaylen Brown's further up there, but from an overall defensive standpoint, that's the only reason he slides down. But he's still a really good defender. It's just the Celtics have a ton of really good defenders.
I think that's one thing about Rob Williams is why I'm like, I really like if he didn't get hurt, I think I would have just picked him outright. But his off ball is obviously amazing. But even when he switches on guards, he does a really good job of guarding people. Like I remember when they played Dallas a few weeks ago or like a month ago. When he got switched on to Luka, he was doing a very good job, like staying in front of Luka, making him take really tough shots, which, Luka usually gets his way with whenever he gets a big switched on him. So I don't know. I just value that, man. But that, like the rookie of the year, this is another award to Depoy, which is like, there's so many like good names that can actually win it. So
Celtics even got the great Al Horford, man. Amazing paint protector.
He's not the same. He's not the same.
Oh, yeah, but he's been fine again for sure. He's definitely been better than his days in Philly where things looked on the down.
He averaged 10. He still averaged 10 points per game this year. I definitely expected him to average like 6 at this point.
I didn't know what to expect. I was kind of high on that move, but I didn't expect Rob Williams to really take this big of a leap because I was kind of expecting him to probably get hurt like early on in the season because that's just how he's been so far in his career. But hopefully he comes back healthy, man, because he's the key for this team to make a championship run this season.
Yeah, no, 100%. I've been high on Robert Williams for a long time, like back in the bubble, I believe it was, when the Raptors played Boston.
Yes.
I thought he should have been starting in that series. He looked better in those lineups than when Daniel Tice was out there fully.
Yes.
His impact defensively back then was already so good. Rim protection, quite good, although it's improved a lot since then. But as you were alluding to, Tyrik, his ability to switch out on wings or guards and defend in space, he's so mobile, such an impactful player. If he can figure out how to stay healthy and play 65, 70 games a year, man, this Boston team with him at center is going to be in a very good spot.
Yeah, honestly, the Celtics really just got to hope that Philly and Toronto like duke it out, go 6 or 7 long series because that's just more time for them to get healthy. Because right now, if the standings stay the same, they play Chicago round 1 and probably Boston in 5. If I'm being honest, if I'm being transparent, I'll give the Bulls 1 in the UC, but Boston in 5. So
give me Toronto in 6 though. Give me the Raptors in 6 over Philly. No, I don't know. That's gonna be a good series though. Is that locked in as the matchup?
Not yet, no.
Yeah, Boston and Philly are tied. So if Boston loses their last game and Philly wins, then
okay.
Yeah, that's still up today. So we'll know by the end of today what that matchup will look like.
I would rather play the Bulls.
I think everybody would rather play the Bulls.
Facts.
At one point, like Toronto is in the play-in, and the Bulls were the 1 seed, and now the Raptors have a better record than them. So I think that shows who's hot right now.
This season is so wild. Remember when the Wizards were the 1 seed for a little bit?
Yeah. I was just thinking about that the other day. They were the 1 seed. That's what it was. I was watching back some film / recording some highlights, and the Wizards were the 1 seed, and Montrezl Harrell had 20 points in 22 minutes and was a 6th man of the year candidate. And my man is not even near consideration for that anymore.
Hey, when Miami went to 1, I thought they were just going to have their time in the sun and then fall off to like Philly when they made the Harden trade or something. But
Yeah.
the fact that they stayed up there, I mean, because even I don't know, they've had their own lapses, and with the Celtics storming back, Milwaukee put together a really good late season push. I don't know how they did it, what they did.
6 wins in a row. They've been playing well.
Shout out to them. But hey, are we to it's MVP now?
MVP.
Yes.
I feel like, yeah, I think we got to have the same 3 up here too. If we don't have the same 3, I don't know what's
I feel
going
like we
on.
all should have the same MVP.
I don't agree.
No,
Okay.
I think there's some debate between the top 2. I think there's some debate.
It makes me so sad because I think the guy that we all have in third, I really wanted to be the guy, and then he was not, which makes me sad.
Yeah, I'm actually switching those 2 right now. Y'all got Embiid third?
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say I got Embiid third. He was definitely that guy for a lot of the season. I don't think James Harden has been that great on the Sixers to where that should be a point against Embiid, but unfortunately, it has been. And so it's just the way it is. I think the other 2 guys have just put forth more, signature moments and performances. And Embiid's had a great season, just clinched the scoring title, but it's like, if you think of signature moments from people's MVP seasons, I don't know how many of those Embiid really has, and so he's really lacking in that department.
I don't know. He had a stretch where he was putting up 40 for like 2 weeks straight.
I'd argue he has more signature moments than Giannis.
I think so too.
Okay, there's one guy that plays the same position that has a lot more signature moments.
And that's
Yes.
facts.
Yes. Okay. So we all got Embiid at 3. Is that consensus?
Yeah.
Embiid's number 3.
I'm on record. I think it was maybe like late January, early February. I said this was the best player in the world, and that is no longer the case. Still, sensational season, 30 points per game, first center to do it since Shaq. But they made the blockbuster deal, and they're kind of just the same team, which I don't want to hold that against Joel because they're still a good team. But when this race is so tight, you got to kind of nitpick a little bit. And then once you go into advanced numbers and stuff, they favor Giannis and Jokic a lot more. That's just how it goes, man.
Yeah,
Hey,
definitely.
nobody can say 3-point weekly is xenophobic, man. We all got 3 international players in the top 3.
Yes. As much as I wanted to push the Jason Tatum narrative, I can't. No, I'm just playing.
Hey, I was gonna push that Ja narrative, and then he missed 22 games.
I wanted to push the Devin Booker narrative so bad, but it's just
His
like
team won all of them.
can't do it.
Yeah. The fact that there's this many narratives that can be pushed though just speaks to how much there's been so many good top end talents this year. Like Joel Embiid, MVP in a lot of years. Not this year. But he's had a great season.
Which sucks because this might be the best version of him.
It very well might be. With the availability of Embiid always being a question, the fact that he got to have as many touches as he did for such a large majority of the season, and this is the most games he's ever played in a season. There's no guarantee we'll have that again. So
has he missed 10? Has he missed 10 games this year?
He's played 68 games.
That's amazing for him.
His highest before then was 64.
Yeah, I mean, if he plays today, that means he played 69 games. He only missed like 13. That's pretty impressive.
I believe he'll be playing today because I'm assuming would prefer to play the Bulls, so they'll likely be trying to get a win out of it.
Okay. Yeah, and he's only averaging like 33 minutes a game, scoring 30.
It's gonna be crazy when the Bulls make an Eastern Conference Finals run and they're like, everybody was trying to play us. We're the guys that you guys wanted to play. Now y'all can't mess with us.
I don't think this is the year. Sad to say it. But all right, let's get to the nitty gritty, man. Top two, man. Who wants to go? Who wants to go first?
I'll roll with it. Okay. This is really tough.
I know who Tyrik has, so whatever you say right now is either going to make me in the majority or the minority, and that's going to make me really sad.
Yes, I've been very adamant on who I think the MVP is.
This is a really tough pick.
Okay,
they both are very much deserving of MVP. They both are two-way players at this point in time. Jokic, not quite the defensive player that Giannis is, but nonetheless has improved a lot defensively. Both have had very good seasons. Both are going to be in the playoffs. Jokic of which has struggled with Jamal Murray and MPJ being out for all of and the majority of the season. But I had to give it to Giannis. Jokic is my number 2. Giannis is my number 1. The only way I could discern it is that the difference between Giannis and Jokic defensively is greater than the difference between Jokic and Giannis offensively, both of which are elite offensive talents. I can't say Jokic is an elite defensive talent. But what Jokic does on the offensive end, specifically from the center position, is just something we may not ever see, or at least we'll very rarely see with his shot creation, with his vision, with his passing. He's just an absolutely sensational talent. He's a generational talent at the end of the day. And he's had another great year under very tough circumstances. And they'll at the very least be a 6 seed in the Western Conference, sitting at nearly a 600 record, which is absolutely absurd for that roster. Giannis's two-way impact is just what gives it to me. Offensively, they both have such great talent. You can definitely argue Jokic has slightly better offensive talent, specifically from a playmaking standpoint. But Giannis is heads and tails above Jokic on the defensive end. His defensive impact is much greater. And he's on a slightly better team, which does give him a bit of an edge as well, currently sitting in the 2 seed. But both are very deserving of this award, both of which have had absolutely brilliant seasons. And unfortunately, both of which have kind of struggled from a bit of voter fatigue as well until the back half of the year. But I'm glad that they are, for the most part, what will probably be the most popular top 2.
It's really it's such a coin flip, because I'm just going to preface this with saying I have Giannis number 1, but bro, Jokic is so insane in basketball. The fact that I can turn on a game, them against the Pelicans are up like 10, and this dude Jokic just in the fourth quarter in OT scores 30 points. Literally might miss one. I think he missed maybe one shot the whole time. Absolute takeover. Just does everything. Not a bad defender anymore, which was his biggest knock. Possibly the best playmaker in the league, and probably worst supporting cast out of the top candidates. But Giannis is just different, man. Giannis is at this point building a GOAT case for me. Not like a you might be the greatest player of all time, but like this is a dude who in 5 years could be the 3rd guy to enter the conversation. If he wins it this year, that's already his 3rd MVP, a ring, which he could go on to repeat. I feel like a lot of people have them as the favorite out of this conference. So then depending on what happens in the West, what if he gets another ring? Most people would probably say he's the best player in the league right now. He's just insane. Like Devin said, his 2-way impact, he just drops like 40 points without trying, and is also the scariest defender on the floor at the same time. His center was out for most of the season. Didn't matter. He locked down the paint. Their defense fell off a little bit, but we know he still did what he does.
You guys make a very good case for Giannis, and I'm not mad at it because Giannis, he's had a hell of a season for sure. But it's back to back for me. I'm going with Jokic. Giannis was my 2. Jokic was my 1. For all the reasons that y'all mentioned. Obviously, he's missing his 2nd and 3rd best players all season long. Still a 48-win team, chance to make it 49 today. And you talk about the difference in record. Giannis's team is like a couple wins better, which given his supporting cast is a lot better than what Jokic's is. I think that's a dub for Jokic. Advanced analytics love Nikola Jokic, even though they do love Giannis too, but they love Jokic a lot. StatMuse will tell you all about that if you want to check that out. But Jokic he's had the moments this season, man. Like Gabe mentioned, he had that game. I think he said the Pelicans where fourth quarter and overtime, I think he ended up putting up like 30 points in total. Like he was off the charts. And he made big time plays. He made clutch shots. He has like 3 game-winning blocks. He has game-winning passes to Aaron Gordon in the corner. Like he has game-winning shots. Like he's had the moments. He's had the MVP moments. Probably the most consistent player all season long. Like you can't look at a stretch from Jokic where it was like, oh, he's playing kind of bad basketball right now. You could say that about Embiid. I think even Giannis has had some stretches where maybe he wasn't at his best. You can't really say that about Jokic. Like he's been on his game all season long, kind of similar to how he won MVP last year. The consistency is there, no lapses really, and this team is still right in the thick of things in the Western Conference. And because of him, we think that they can still win a first-round series, even though the roster around him is not good. Like, Will Barton is his second leading scorer this season. Some nights is Monte Morris. Some nights is Bones Highland. That's the second guy. And Jokic has been consistent. He's been the staple for this Nuggets team all season long. And, we saw him win a playoff series last season with a kind of incompetent supporting cast. And he has a chance to do it again this year. I'm not mad at y'all for going with Giannis because it's, like Gabe said, it's kind of a coin flip. But I'm going to take Jokic as back-to-back, man. I think he's earned it for sure. As close as this race has been, I just think he has the moments that separates him. And he's really improved on the defense side of the floor, like you mentioned, too. So I'm going to go with Jokic, but I'm not mad with the Giannis pick at all.
It's just when you say, like, when we got to get nitpicky, really get nitpicky.
You do.
With the, like, who's going to be the MVP? It's real. Like, the biggest thing is just that 6 seed.
If this was 5-6 years ago, I would be right with you. I'd be like, yes, I'd be with you. But I think the criteria has really changed, man. And when you look at it, like, yeah, they're the 6th seed in the Western Conference, but if they was in the East, they would be right, like, in the middle of the pack, like 4 or 5 seed range. Like, they're right there, right below 50 wins, given everything that they've dealt with this season.
I mean, they could still finish as a 5 seed. It's just like Giannis, he had Drew out for a little bit early, had Cash Money Chris out for a little bit early. Just still being like a 2nd seed, 50-win team.
But then you remember, since we're going to get a little nitpicky, there was a time where this Bucks team was struggling because they had guys out with injury. There was a time where they were struggling. Like, they weren't really winning a lot of games in a row. The Nuggets have been pretty stable all year. Like, they've been in the same range all season long.
I do think it's a great debate because it's like we say this, like, the stats favor Jokic, but it's like really by how much. Because Giannis has great stats himself, but then I can say seeding, but really the Bucks are only 3 games ahead of the Nuggets. So Giannis playing in the Eastern Conference does help him out a little bit. That is for sure. It's just everything is like so close. And I guess I'm sort of against the shift in like winning mattering less. I still think that Harden should have won over Westbrook in 2017. I really think the MVP, I like the winning aspect of it. I would prefer not to change like the precedent that's been set and the criteria we have, because then as you go on, it's like, oh, well, what does this award even mean anymore? And just being super like more consistent with what the criteria is and how people have won it historically. Obviously, there's always time for history to change, but just from my perspective, I'm just like, we can't keep changing the criteria every year.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing too, because if this was 2015, Devin Booker would be the MVP. Like, they're by far the best team in basketball. He's putting up very good numbers. That's how Steph Curry won his first MVP. He was only averaging like 23 and 7, but he still won the MVP because they were a 67-win team. I do agree with that, Gabe. But the criteria it needs to get established, like what makes an MVP. We talked about this before, I think a couple episodes ago. Like, other sports, they got it down. Like, if you're an MVP, this is exactly what you got to do. Basketball is so inconsistent, and they need to just, change it up. But, yeah, such a close race. I think we've been blessed with such a competitive MVP race this season, man.
Yeah, no, we definitely have, both of which have been fully deserving of an MVP award. I don't really care which one gets awarded at MVP. As long as one of the two of them get it, they're both fully deserving, and they both had absolutely brilliant seasons and hopefully can have themselves a good postseason run as well.
I'm really pulling for Giannis, though. It's just the fact that he can have that GOAT case, man. I really just want to see somebody achieve greatness at that super high level. That'll be his 3rd MVP. It could be his 2nd ring this year. It's just like, man, he could really be like the generation-defining player.
Definitely. I very much feel the same way. I'm really high on Giannis right now. If he has another good postseason run, the future of his legacy is looking really good. He already just looks like he's really pulling away in that best player in the league type race. And moving forward, another good postseason run is kind of where you truly solidify yourself in that type of conversation. And I don't doubt that he can have the opportunity to do that again. Moving on to our all NBA teams discussion. This is arguably the most debatable teams that get made every year from an award standpoint across the NBA. A reminder to everyone that each team consists of 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center, which unfortunately does make things quite annoying and quite difficult as far as deciding these teams. There is a bit more flexibility this year, such as Jokic can be classified as a forward, DeMar can be classified as a guard or a forward. So there are a few more exceptions this year, but nonetheless, it is 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center. I will start off with the first team guards. I'll pass it off to you, Gabe, to start from there.
Honestly, I think we should just do the whole first team at once because everybody's forward should be the 3 MVP candidates.
Let's hope so.
I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't be. If they're the 3 MVP candidates, I feel like that just makes it kind of obvious that they're the first team forwards / center.
I would sure hope. The only concern I have, and not that this is based on me not wanting them to be there, is if too many people put Jokic at power forward, but not enough. Like if they get split between power forward and center, and he ends up not getting enough at one position, because that could then screw him out of first team All NBA, which is so stupid, but could actually cost him first team All NBA.
That would be crazy. Imagine he won the MVP but got second team All NBA.
And yet it is fully possible because of the broken system. But
yeah, I think
wild.
if we're saying that Jokic can be a power forward, then that's my 3. And then my guards, I gotta give my shout out to Devin Booker. Best team in the league, best guy on the best team. I think that deserves a spot there. He's played very well this season. I don't think there's really a whole lot to say. And then Luka. Luka started off the season slow, which is still a great season for 90% of players. And he's only turned it up since then. The Mavericks came storming late in the season. And, recency bias is always going to play in for voters. To me, how you finish is pretty important. So I kind of might have a little bit of recency bias myself, but I really like the season he's put forward.
I don't have any changes. Exact same. I gave Book the nod over the guy I was thinking about because, like you said, Gabe, best team in the league all year long. And then the 3 MVP candidates, that's pretty straightforward. And I think Luka has been the best guard this season. I think he has.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. My list is the same. As you mentioned, Gabe, Luka started slow, but as far as a collective season with players that have missed time, Luka was my easiest pick for the guard position as far as first team goes. And Devin Booker, best player on the best team. As far as All NBA teams go, he very much deserves his spot up in the All NBA first team, and the forwards are straightforward. So the first team was the easiest. The second and third is where it gets a little bit more dicey.
That's where, dicey is the word, man. Dicey is the word. Whew.
I feel like third team might be the most dicey just because if you don't make third team, and you might be a snub.
Yeah, it definitely is. Definitely is.
There's only really like 2 guys that have a case in my eyes that are snubs. But even then, one of them kind of missed a lot of games. So I don't know I'm not too sure, man. But this was not easy. First team was the easiest part of this for sure. Most definitely.
All right, so I'll go ahead. My guards, I got Chris Paul and Ja Morant. Suns Madness is legit. 10 games better than anybody else in the league. Chris Paul is such a big part of that. I put him there. I think we've talked about Chris Paul for years, how his impact goes further than stats.
Yes.
And just all the things he does, he's Chris Paul. Then Ja Morant, it's just been Ja Madness all year, taking the league by storm. I feel like he was in a lot of first-team discussions all season. Now he's missed like 20 games or so, but at this point, who hasn't? So I thought he still played enough to get this nod for me being the leader of the second-best team in the league. I think that's kind of my second team, the leaders of the 2 best teams in the league. Because I would say Chris Paul's probably a little bit more of a leader than Devin Booker. But Devin Booker's a better player, so we got my first team not over him. Then my fours, this is where it gets kind of interesting. I got Tatum and KD. Tatum from the sense that second half season of Celtics, just I don't think I need to say any more than that. Jason Tatum. And then Kevin Durant, he had a fair amount of the season where he was like up there at the top of the MVP discussion, probably until about Christmas time, maybe like early in January. I think that's when he kind of went out for a little bit and other guys kind of took that lead. But if you want to talk about the full season, his first half was still good. And then after he came back, it's not like he's been bad. We just had those top three guys doing so great that it's hard to look at anybody else. And then as my second team center, I got LeBron because he was playing some center this season. He started some games at center, so he's eligible to go there in my eyes.
Okay.
And I mean, the man was like top 3 in the scoring race, put up crazy stats all year, and he's LeBron James. He's going to get votes. The dude, when I was talking earlier about the MVP race with signature moments, LeBron might have more signature moments than all of them.
For better or for worse, yeah.
For better or for worse, but it's like, hey, I think while All-NBA does have winning a little bit more involved, as LeBron is my only player on any of these All-NBA teams that is not on a playoff team. And I don't even mean just like in the play-in. I think I might have to look at the standings again because there might be one other that might be in the play-in. But as far as I know, everybody else is in the playoffs. But LeBron's just been so great. I don't think anybody needs to say why LeBron's good. So I will pass it off.
I wonder if they'll let LeBron get votes as a center because he did play a good chunk of the season at the 5.
I think LeBron played more center than Jokic played power forward. I'll tell you that.
I'll do the math as we check in the background here, but LeBron has played 5% of his minutes according to Basketball Reference at center. I'll check Nikola Jokic at power forward, but I don't think it's much different.
Yeah, there might be a few lineups where he plays with Boogie, but that might be it.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Embiid played more at power forward if it got classified that way with Andre Drummond than Jokic with Boogie.
Interesting. I like the curveball, Gabe, having Braun at the 5. I like that.
I mean, there's really I think there were 3 centers in this league this year that deserve to be on one of those 15 spots.
Yeah.
Jokic has, according to Basketball Reference, played 100% of his minutes at center.
Really? That's kind of surprising. I feel
If Jokic can be a power forward, LeBron can be a center.
I ain't mad at it, man. I'm not mad at it. Okay, I just had to look at stats real quick. Okay, I guess I'll go. You said you had Chris Paul, right? As your
I did.
Guard?
Yes.
Biggest CP3 fan on the podcast. I don't have Chris Paul on any of my All-NBA teams.
Oh, okay.
Interested.
My first guard is this guy would have a case. If his team was better, he would have an MVP case. He would also have a case to be first team All-NBA, and that is Trae Young. He's between him and Luka, them have been like the top 2 guards this season, man. In my eyes, those have been the top 2 point guards this season. Trae's been off the charts. Like he's once again dragged this team from the bottom of the standings, and there are, I think, a couple games over 500 now. Like they've been playing some really good ball lately, and they have a chance to make the postseason again. And even if they are an 8 seed, they're going to be a scary 8 seed. You know, depending on if they match up with it will be the Miami Heat. So I'm excited to see that. So I got Trae Young as my first guard. Gabe, you talked about Ja. He's been great, even though he missed a lot of time. Before he missed all that time, he had a case to be first team. Like I think he was almost a first team lock for most of the season. Then obviously injuries and stuff kind of hurt that case, but he's still second team in my eyes. I got Tatum as one of my forwards. The other forward I have DeMar DeRozan. Say what you want. The Bulls have gone through a lot this season, but the one thing that's been constant is DeMar's play. He had one maybe like tough stretch, like a couple weeks stretch where he wasn't great, but he's had a lot of stretches where he was putting up like 30 points every single night. Like he's been amazing. The one thing that's really kept the Bulls somewhat afloat this season, and a team that hasn't made the playoffs in like 5 years, DeMar is one of the biggest reasons why they are a playoff team now. And then my big, I have Cat. I think Cat's had a very kind of under the radar season, even though he was an all-star and stuff. I feel like a lot of the flashes go to Anthony Edwards because he's so showtime and stuff, but Cat's been so steady. Defense has improved. He's getting in people's faces and stuff. Like he's talking trash. Had this big 60-point game. Cat's been amazing. And the Timberwolves are another team that kind of overachieved this season, and they're a play-in team. So I got to give Cat that second center spot on my All-NBA teams.
Yeah, Cat's definitely had a very underrated season, even despite the Timberwolves being the 7th seed and hopefully getting through the playing games into the playoff. He's also my center for my second team. If LeBron is considered a center, I'd think about putting him in here, but based on Cat having such a good year and the fact that LeBron's probably not going to get center votes, Cat is my pick here. KD and Tatum were also my 2 forward picks. KD missing time definitely made me think about putting him a little bit lower, but he's just been so good when he's played. And as weird as it sounds with what was supposed to be a very good Brooklyn team this year, he's had to carry this Brooklyn team on a lot of nights with the lack of depth they've had, with Kyrie and his lack of availability throughout the course of the season, with Harden having rough stretches when he was on the roster. So full credits to him for how he's played. And the impact and success of Jason Tatum speaks for itself. He's been one of the best players in the league over the last few months. The Boston Celtics have been one of the best teams over the last few months. And so he's very much deserving of his spot on this team. John Morant was one of my guards for the second team. As mentioned, he was pretty much a lock as far as first team goes before he got his injury. He was probably my number 1 guard to get onto that first team before he got his injury, and that obviously has hurt him a bit, but he was still absolutely electric and burst onto the scene over the course of the season, and he's fully deserving of an All-NBA second spot. And I really wanted to put Trae Young here. I really did. He's had a very good year. Unfortunately, the Hawks have not, and that is what has hurt him in his All-NBA candidacy and why I'm really scared he's not even going to be on an All-NBA team at all. But I do have Steph Curry here on this second All-NBA team. He slowed down from where he was at the start of the year. There's no doubt about it. He started really hot, and then once he started getting around to breaking the all-time three-point record, kind of hit a bit of a slump, and it's still been good, no doubt about it, but not exactly that consistently electric Steph Curry that we've gotten accustomed to. But he's still been really good. He's still on one of the best teams in the league. And I gave him my nod for my second guard in the second team.
See, what's really interesting here is literally my third team. 4 of the players on it are players that you guys have already said.
Yeah.
And so that just makes me think, man, either I was just like a little bit higher on some players than you guys, or I guess a little bit lower because you had them. But
yeah. I mean,
either that or my second team picks were just really out of pocket then, because my third team is literally a bunch of players that you guys just said.
Yeah, I'm trying to because obviously winning matters in All NBA. But for somebody like Trae Young, I'm not going to hold that too much against him because they're still above 500 and they have a chance to make the playoffs. So I'm not really holding that too much against him in that aspect. And he's just had such a good year, man. He's been incredible this season, bro. But
that's the thing.
He deserves an All NBA spot for sure. It just matters if it's second or third team, basically.
Yeah, it's like Trae. I guess I'll go ahead and say, yeah, Trae's on my third team. Obviously, I mean, I just said you guys mentioned like most of my team. But yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, he didn't win enough. I mean, he's the best player on a winning team. So I think that's enough winning to be an All NBA player, being easily, and it's not like a close, like there's no 1B on the team. Trae is 1. Everybody else is a distant 2. And yeah, you guys pretty much said all you need to say about him. Got Steph Curry on my third team, the guy who in the first half of the season was like dang near unanimous MVP again. And so taking the full season into account, like I said with KD, I mean, he just had so much greatness in the first half. And then he had a very, very, very long slump. But at the end of the day, he's still Steph Curry. I still think he's deserving of third team. There's not other guys that I would put over him. And then for my forwards, first forward, I got Pascal Siakam.
Yes, sir.
I think he has played so great the second half of the season. I think he probably would have been an all-star if he didn't miss the first month of the year. But now that he's kind of pretty much just played consistently since then, while other people have missed time along the way, he's pretty much caught up to other people in terms of playing time. And once he got back into swing, he got back into swing. I swear Julius Randle stole his talent for his season because as soon as Pascal fell off, Julius came back. Then Julius fell back off, and Pascal's a star again. So I don't know. I don't know what sort of deal with the devil Julius Randle made for his season to steal spicy piece stuff. But Pascal Siakam is back. Fred VanVleet was an all-star, and Pascal Siakam might be the best player on this Raptors team. That's a 5 seed now. And so leading your team to a 5 seed, I think if you look at really the top of both conferences, pretty much every team except for Miami, we've given an all-NBA player to, which is kind of sad. I guess out of any team that's not in the play-in, out of who we've said so far before listing our third teams, well, I guess now that I'm listing Pascal, the only players that haven't had an all-NBA selection, Utah and Miami. And so I guess if one of you guys has Jimmy Butler, that might change things. But I do not have Jimmy Butler or Donovan Mitchell because, like I said, I got DeMar like you guys said, and I got Cat like you guys said.
Very interesting, Gabe. Very, very.
That was probably a really convoluted way to explain that. But Curry, Trey, DeMar, Pascal, Cat, spreading the love around. Every single playoff secured team has an All-NBA player, except for 2. And Jimmy would probably be my next guy to put on if there was a 4th team.
Yeah. I guess that's a good segue to jump into mine. I do have Steph as well on third team. I could see the argument of him being second team, but I'm gonna have him third because the fall off from the beginning of the season where he was looking like you said, the MVP of basketball, the slump lasted a pretty long time. But I still think he's had a good enough year to be a third team guard. I did have Donovan Mitchell. I did. He's everything for this Jazz team offensively, especially since Joe Ingles went down. Like, he's really the sole creator for this squad, man. Every given night, he's the one constant that he's gonna get his 26 points a game, and maybe some nights he'll go off for 40, and nobody else is really gonna create. Donovan's been that, and even though the Jazz have kind of had a down year, they're still like a 48, 49 win team. Like, they're still really good in that aspect. So I'd have Donovan Mitchell, man, and the fact he didn't have an All-NBA selection last year was kind of crazy, or that he hasn't had one at all. It's kind of ridiculous. And he was the player where I was like, oh, I forgot somebody. I couldn't leave him off, man. As much as I love Chris Paul, I got to give it to Donovan, man. I have to. My first forward is LeBron, and the only reason why he's on third team is because they've won like 31 or 32 games. Like, they're just such a bad team. And obviously that's not really on LeBron's shoulders, but winning has to say something. Has to say something. If they were a playoff team, Bron would have a case for, second team or potentially even first team. But with that being said, he's my first forward on my third team. Then I do have Pascal, and that means I did leave KD off. KD's missed like 28 games this year, man. That's a lot of time not playing basketball. That's like a third of the season, essentially. Like, he's missed a lot of games. So I gave it to Pascal. He's been amazing. If he played the first like month or so, I think he missed, he would have been an all-star for sure. He's been going crazy. He just gave my Celtics 40 last week. Like, he was giving us the work. He's back in his bag for sure. And then my third team center is Bam. He's been great. I made the case earlier on why he's one of the best defensive players in the league. And he's averaging like 19 and 10, which I think 19 might be a career high for him. He's been amazing.
Yeah, no, Bam has had a really good year. Full credit to him. I do not have him on my third All-NBA team simply because of time missed. If he's available early on in the year, he comfortably gets onto this All-NBA third team. I went with a bit of a position change, similar to what Gabe did with his second team for my center position on the third team, making my center Siakam. He's played nearly 40% of his time at center this year, so I think if anyone deserves a position change, it's him. Fully deserving of the spot. The only knock against him is his missed time early in the year, but he's been absolutely brilliant since then, arguably playing like one of the top 10 players in the league over the last month and a half. So full credit to him, fully deserved. DeMar and Trae Young get spots in here as well. DeMar gets classified as a forward in this team for me, but DeMar, of course, had a bit of a slump over the last stretch of the season, but that was after an absolutely historic run that he had where he absolutely carried the Chicago Bulls as they were struggling with injuries. He's been by far and away the most constant and best player on the Chicago Bulls team. And as much as he hasn't been as crazy over the last couple of months and month and a half, that should no way take away from what he accomplished early on in the year, what the Chicago Bulls accomplished early on in the year, and what I believe would be his first All-NBA team, if I'm not mistaken, and very much deserved. My other guard, I think it would be, but I could be
feel
wrong
like
there.
you're talking about DeMar?
I'll look it up for you. I'll look it up for you.
There's no way DeMar didn't make it when the Raptors were the 1 seed, man.
I mean,
There's
I'm
no way
hoping
he
I'm
didn't.
wrong, but I'm just used to
He's
two-time.
two-time.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
One of them has to be 17, 18. And 16, 17 is probably the other one because he averaged like 27 points per game.
Okay, well, that's good because he gets his credit. I'm just used to DeMar not getting credit, so this is good. My other guard alongside Trae Young was Chris Paul. I had to give Chris Paul his love. He's so impactful for this Phoenix Suns team. Continues to be just such a valuable player from a creation standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, a defensive standpoint. We all know the value of Chris Paul at this point. He continues to be very important in what the Phoenix Suns do, and is going to be very important come playoff time once again, assuming he stays healthy. And then my last pick was LeBron. As previously mentioned, as much as the Lakers have struggled this year, LeBron has played very well. The only reason he's this low is because of the Lakers' struggles to win, not because of LeBron's struggles to perform.
I like it. I like everybody's list. I like the variety.
Yeah,
Everybody was different.
It's so close. It's like if there was a fourth team, obviously Don's on there easy. Probably Jimmy and Bam are both on there for me easy.
Yeah, I agree.
Surprise, no Rudy love? What about Rudy?
No Rudy love. No Rudy
love. I had LeBron as a
if you saw
her
the 1 seed again, maybe, but that's about it.
If Utah didn't blow a 20-point lead every other night in the most crucial part of the season,
that would also help. That would also help.
Devin, did you have Donovan on your third team?
No, I didn't. I had Chris Paul and Trae Young as the guards.
Okay.
I think me and Devin had the same 15 players in a different order.
Yeah, I believe so, yes. I believe so.
Tyrik, you had Donovan and Bam instead of KD and Chris Paul.
And Chris Paul, yeah.
So we were 3-point weekly unanimous selections on 13 players. That's pretty consistent.
The first team was all the same.
First team was same, yeah.
I don't think we all had the same winners for any award except for Sixth Man of the Year, Coach of the Year. I think
Coach of the Year. I think we were the same. Yeah.
Yeah, Coach of the Year. We all had
that was
Monty,
it,
but no, Tyrik, you were different on MVP. We were all different on D-Boy.
Yes.
Me and Devin were the same on Rookie. So Tyrik, you were just the odd one out today, I guess.
Clearly.
Had to switch it up a little bit, I guess. I was really thinking we would all have Jokic as MVP. That's what I figured.
It's so tough, man.
Giannis is just Giannis is just the best player in the league, man. I'm sorry.
Man.
He is, and that's honestly the biggest discerning factor.
The second seed in the most competitive
tough.
East in years.
So tough.
He had to adjust to playing center this season for the most part.
Yes, it's good cases for both guys, man. It is.
And B's case ain't even bad either. Scoring title.
It really isn't.
Bruh, Harden has been not great. It's like clear best player, good seed. Like he's right in the middle of seeding.
Yeah.
Scored the most points. Probably in the middle on defense as well. Probably a better defender than Jokic, but not as good as Giannis. He's just right. He's kind of in between them, but because he doesn't excel at like anything particularly except scoring the most points, which Giannis is like not even half a point behind.
Yes. Yeah, for most of the season, I was saying it was Embiid, and then Jokic just swayed me. Giannis has made a nice run to make it interesting, but I've been saying for like the last 2 weeks, I think it's Jokic's to lose, and I think they're gonna give it to him because they just polled the media members that have votes, and like 75% of them said Jokic is the MVP. Like it was a good amount, so I don't know, man.
Well, if anyone's gonna potentially miss out on MVP, I'd rather it be honest because God forbid Jokic doesn't get first team All NBA, then he better get something. So.
Yeah, true. That would be crazy. That might be worse than when Marcus Gasol won Depoy and wasn't even first team on defense.
How
Yeah.
LeBron's depoy is sitting in Marc Gasol's closet. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It's wild. It's
Bron
wild.
definitely should have got it that year, man. Definitely.
That's crazy though. Talking about Harden and Embiid, like 2 or 3 years ago, the thought of Harden and Embiid being on the same team and Embiid being like undisputably the comfortably best player on the team is wild. It's absolutely wild.
Bro, everybody knows James Harden is my guy, but he's getting into the Anthony Davis tier for me where I don't even want to speak about you anymore. I just don't like. I just had to go off. I made a TikTok the other day because AD just keeps talking, bro. Like, why are you talking? You're at the crib, bro, and
He does say a lot of things. Well, I think what sold it for me on AD was when he was like, "The Suns know we would have beat them."
Bro, like
y'all were a
got hurt.
7 seed. You were
got
a
hurt.
7 seed versus a 2 seed. You weren't favored. It's like it's not the same as the Golden State Warriors walking against the Raptors with Kevin Durant coming back, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, clearly favored to win the series. Injuries happen and the Raptors win. Bro, the Suns were favored from the beginning because they were 6 seeds higher.
Like, bro, that man AD he's really making me just so mad, bro. Like, you're doing all this talking. He's like, yeah, I'm an MFer when I'm healthy. Like, you're never healthy, bro. Like, get real with yourself, bro.
You average 6 injury scares a game.
Bro, like, well, I don't remember the last time this man played 10 straight games.
Facts,
probably in New Orleans.
Maybe 2020. Maybe the 2020 season. Maybe.
In the bubble.
Bro. Yeah, the bubble. Like, he's a great talent. He's one of the best power forward talents that we've ever seen. But he's never healthy, and he's doing so much talking in the media, man. Like, bro, just get it together. Like, if anybody, I don't want to blame him because you can't really control injuries, but the biggest downfall was definitely him being hurt most of the year because
they say if you play scared to get hurt again, that's the main way to get hurt again. So it might be a mental thing at this point.
Might
definitely
be
possible.
And it's like he never really has like a big injury. Like, it's never like a knee injury or something. It's just like that small, like a stretched groin or a calf strain. Like, it's always just knick-knack injuries, like a shoulder sprain. Like, it's always small stuff with him that just makes him miss 6 games here, 5 games here, 7 games here. It's just like, bro, I don't know. Maybe he needs to change something in his diet or something. I don't know, bro. But
man, he needs to go vegan.
Worked for Chris Paul, apparently.
Man, do you think they explored the idea of trading AD in the offseason? I've been seeing some reports.
I've been seeing some too. I don't see it personally.
I agree.
I don't think there's any world where he gets traded. I don't think you get fair value for him right now. I don't think it's worth. I think if you're going to trade him, you'd play 20 games and then trade him. Not that I think they're going to do that either, but I think he's in LA for the length of that contract, as far as I'm concerned. I don't see a team like the Lakers trading away a star. Like in his prime, as far as age goes, he can't stay healthy, but like he's there until he's a free agent, as far as I'm concerned, unless something really drastic changes. But I don't see a world where AD is not a Laker until he is no longer on that contract.
I don't see the Lakers being in a place to make big moves. I think it's like they just kind of got what they got. They can continue to sign like vet minimum players that do the minimum until LeBron leaves to go play with Bronny, and then they can start a rebuild. Because nobody on that roster has high enough value to get you good assets. And none of your players under big contracts are going to get you much. I mean, at this point, it seems like Russ is a negative asset. I don't know if people are going to really want to trade for AD because why would you trade for somebody that doesn't play? Especially a guy like AD forced his way out of a small market to go play for the Lakers. So small market teams are probably going to be like, oh, well, we don't want to trade for him because he might just leave us after a year. And then other big markets, they're going to be like, well, we can probably get players that are going to play more and spend our $40 million better.
Yeah. The fact they got a championship is a blessing because if not, man, this will look like one of the worst trades in NBA history, bro. Because they missed the playoffs twice since
Yeah.
LeBron's got there. They missed the playoffs twice. Damn near missed it last year. That championship, that saved a lot of people's jobs already, man.
Facts.
Hey,
Big
that trade,
facts.
that was a win-win trade, honestly. I think the Pelicans' young core looks really nice right now. If Zion actually comes back and plays, or if he ends up forcing his way out and they trade him for some good stuff, I like the direction they're heading in. And then the Lakers, they got a ring. If you get a ring, you don't lose the
Ring.
trade.
They got a ring.
That
Hey,
is the only thing saving them.
the end of the day, it's all worth it. But man, what's gonna happen is when LeBron either retires or leaves, they're gonna be set in a pretty similar situation to after they won their last couple championships, in the early 2010s. It's gonna be looking like, hey, we're a very bad team. We have no money. We're just getting a bunch of young draft picks if they add their draft pick. I don't even know if they have any draft picks within the next 4 years or anything.
Yeah, they'll have. I mean, those picks are all pick swapped. So if they have low picks, which I mean, right now they are worse picks than the Pelicans, then the Pelicans will pick swap those, and they'll have the Pelicans first every second year for like the next 6 years. Other than that, they don't have anything.
Yeah, I think they're going to run it back with a new coach. And then once that fails, I feel like they're just going to blow it up completely. I feel like Palinka will be out of there. I think everybody will be out of there.
Well, apparently, they're going to get Nick Nurse.
I saw that earlier. I saw you quote tweeted it, man.
Hey, Nick Nurse, if you want to go get a bag, but just remember, you can have Masai build a roster for you, or you can have Legion get you Russ.
Rob Pelinka. This season was bad for the Lakers when they were saying like they're mad Kendrick Nunn hasn't played a game this season. They're like, man. I remember when Trevor Ariza played, they're like, man, this the savior right here, Trevor Ariza.
Hey, the Bayes God was gonna come back.
Oh my God, Kent Bazemore, bro. he's in the list of guys of why is he still on the NBA roster?
Yeah.
With all due
Damn, he keep a job.
He had his time as a fine role player in Atlanta, but he was overpaid then, and he shouldn't be here anymore. He shouldn't. He had a fine NBA career, but his time is done. Same with DeAndre Jordan. How is he still in the league? How did he start at the start of the year? That's the even bigger question.
He just got friends.
Bruh.
Yeah, and facts.
Has to yeah, that's crazy. I don't know how those guys still got jobs, man. All due respect to them because DJ was good in his time, and Kent Bazemore, he got paid, I think like $72 million to be a role player today, but they need to be off NBA rosters immediately.
Facts.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you all this: if Ben Simmons comes back in the middle of the playoffs for the Brooklyn Nets, I really feel like he will be like impactful because how in rhythm do you have to be to play defense?
You need to have stamina to be able to play more than 20 minutes a game.
Ben, I feel like his athletic conditioning is probably going to be decent enough. I think the thing is, if anybody was going to come in and have an impact right away, it's Ben Simmons simply because the man does not have to get a shot in rhythm because he doesn't shoot anyways. Bro, you're passing the ball to like KD and Kyrie who just ISO half the time anyway. So it's not like you have to know some super complex playbook or anything.
I mean, yeah, but he hasn't played with these guys at all. Like, not one bit. Like, it would be different if he was in Philly still. Like, that'd be different. But he hasn't played with these guys at all. Like, maybe outside of All-Star games, that's it. Like, that's the only taste he's got with these guys. And even that's a question mark because, KD missed like a couple All-Star games and Kyrie's, he hasn't made an All-Star game like 2 out of the last 3 years. So even that's questionable. So I don't know. I'm in the camp. Just go ahead. Wait till next year, man. I'm on record on saying I don't think that this is their year. Even though they are a scary lower seed, I don't think that this is their year. I think let Ben Simmons get fully healthy, whatever's going on with him, whether it's mental, whether it's his back, let him get completely healed and just come back next year. And then that's going to be your window. That's your window to, hey, let's go win a championship now.
Hey, man, go to the finals, bro. Just come back and watch the upsets happen. If they get that 8 seed, Miami, Come on, man. Just guard Tyler Hero and to the next round. Philly or the Raptors, bro. KD is dropping 50 every game. It's gonna be KD toe. I don't know what you would say there.
Toronto. I don't
Next,
know.
Duranto, bro. It's gonna be Duranto. And then, bro, go to the conference finals. What, you playing the winner in Milwaukee or Boston? They're gonna beat the hell out of each other. Come on, man. Nets are going to the finals if Ben Simmons comes back. He's clamping up Giannis. He's clamping up Bam. He's clamping up Jimmy. He's clamping up Tatum. Doesn't matter, man. Ben Simmons is a needle mover. And if he comes back, Nets are going to the finals.
I don't think so.
That said nobody ever.
Bro, I really think the Bucks are like not head and shoulders better than everybody, but
They're at least a shoulder and a neck, maybe.
No, bro. They're like a forehead better than Boston.
you
If
think
at
so?
all. Yes.
It's
Not about look at they're one game apart. They're literally one game apart. And at one point, the Bucks were like a top 3 seed, and the Celtics were like a 10 seed, and they're one game apart. So that shows you who's playing better right now.
only questions I have. One, how healthy will Robert Williams be? Because a meniscus is not anything to play with. And he's only going to be missing, 4 to 6 weeks in totality. But still, meniscus can easily be re-aggravated, especially since I don't think he's getting surgery on it. He is getting surgery to remove the meniscus. So, yeah. But either way, that's an injury that can easily get aggravated again. And 2, we haven't seen Ime Udoka in a playoff situation. That's big time. And say what you want about Coach Bud, he's a championship coach. And he made proper adjustments last season in order for them to win the championship. So I would have a little more confidence in his coaching scheme over Ime, even though Ime has been great this season, or at least the last 50 or so games. But, yeah, coaching matters in the postseason. It really does. It really does matter, man. That's why with the Nets, I'm not that confident because I just don't really believe in Steve Nash at all.
Bro, I do not have confidence in Bud, man. Like, all respect to their run last year, beat Miami, who beat you the year before. Okay, you bounced back well. You beat KD, who was basically by himself out there. Then you beat the Hawks, who nobody expected to go that far. You beat who you were supposed to beat. You can only play who's in front of you. Okay. And then you made some adjustments against the Suns. I'm sorry. I cannot take an outlier in a whole history of a career and say that is now who you are.
Sometimes you got to learn. Sometimes you have to learn, man. And being a championship coach, it doesn't happen overnight. We've even seen Steve Kerr, make some questionables. Hell, Greg Popovich has made some weird decisions in final situations. And he's top 2 coach all time. It happens.
Lots of people consider Nick Nurse to be quite a mastermind defensively and tries a bunch of different things. He tries a bunch of different things that suck sometimes. Like,
yeah,
it's just the way it is.
I will say Coach Bud is probably the worst championship coach in the last, at least 10 years. For the last 10 years, you've had Nick Nurse, Steve Kerr, Tyronn Lue, Eric Spoelstra, and Greg Popovich.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think that's a knock because that's a hell of a class of coaches.
Yeah, it is.
He seems like the outlier there because I do not feel like he's even close to the tier of those other guys.
Oh no, man. He outcoached Monty Williams in that finals, bro. Like, he really outcoached Monty Williams the last 4 games. He made the right adjustments, man. And look, I said the same thing about Ty Lue. I was bashing Ty Lue. We talked about this. I was bashing him last year. He kept making the right adjustments. And now we see Tyronn Lue as, hey, this is one of the best coaches in basketball. I don't see why we can't say the same thing about Bud.
Yeah, he's definitely up there. If you look up the Eastern Conference standings as far as playoff teams, you obviously have Eric Spoelstra. Udoka's had a good year as far as a head coach goes, but he's obviously inexperienced.
Yes.
Nick Nurse is a good head coach. Outside of that, I don't really think I could say that anyone is clearly better than Bud as far as Eastern Conference teams go.
At all. I don't think so.
Bro, why can't
that's not a bad tier to be in.
I low-key, I might listen. Call me crazy. JB Bickerstaff and Nate McMillan might be better.
No, I wouldn't say Nate McMillan is. And JB, we haven't seen him in a playoff situation either. And sometimes good coaches, they get to the playoffs and they look terrible. I've seen it happen. Doc Rivers is a good coach, but when he gets to the playoffs, very questionable. Very questionable.
Definitely.
Hell, Rick Carlisle's a championship coach. He made some very questionable decisions last year. They had a chance to beat the Clippers, and he was making some terrible decisions. He benched Jalen Brunson in Game 7. Like, come on, man.
Hey, he was trying to sabotage me. He got out of there.
I think he was. And now he went to a
Now
team.
he wanted to rebuild.
Man, like, I wonder if he's even going to be there next year, for real.
I read a report a few days ago that made it sound like he will be. I don't know if I'd be able to find that again now, but it was just, I don't know if it was a podcast or what it is, but Rick Carlisle essentially made it sound like he's there for a rebuild, which seems odd, but
It's crazy that a guy whose biggest success came with a star power forward traded his star power forward his first year there.
Which was much needed.
yeah,
I was thinking,
it was.
we got way off topic. Like, people are probably watching this like, what are they talking about now? But
we'll make this a different episode. This will be by itself.
Yeah, for sure. But I was thinking about the Hornets for some reason. And James Borregos, he's a good coach, but I feel like he needs to get the boot. I feel like he needs to leave.
Yep. Fully agree.
I disagree, man, because he might be like an average coach, but bro, I feel like if they fire him, I feel like it might be a Dave Yeager situation. Is the grass greener on the other side? Because if you look at who's available right now, I think the only person who might be an improvement that's available is like Kenny Atkinson.
I'm gonna be honest. As long as the grass trusts LaMelo Ball more than they trust Mason Plumlee, I think it's an upgrade.
Yes,
Because I like him as a head coach, but what he's doing right now from an offensive standpoint and how he's limiting LaMelo Ball is just not working right now. Like
he's a starter.
The fact that Mason Plumlee is like a vocal point of this offense is concerning. Is really concerning.
It's just the fact this team has only gotten better since he's gotten there.
Slightly better though. Like, they're taking baby steps. When you got a talent like LaMelo, they should be looking like we need to be a solidified playoff team next year. That's how they should be looking. And I just think like Borrego, he's a good coach. I think he's like one of those starter coaches. Like, he's going to get your talent better. He's going to develop guys. He's done a really good job. Like, Miles has gotten better. LaMelo's obviously been very good. Even like when Malik Monk was there, he started to play a lot better under Borrego. But I think once you get to a certain point, and especially if they don't make the playoffs outright this year, you might just have to look like, hey, we're going to have to move in a different direction and get maybe a coach that's a little more ready to bring in a winning culture so we can be a solidified playoff team, because LaMelo is one of the best young players in the league. And, you know, like Devin said, like, kind of holding him back just a little bit. Like, why can't he have a Ja type of, you know, stretch next season, or a, you know, hell, Luka type of, you know, numbers or types? Like, why can't LaMelo be that good? Because he is that talented. It's just a matter of a coach putting him in the right situation and believing in him.
I just think you need to be safe, because the fact that they've clinched their first winning season with LaMelo, you don't want to take steps backward. You want to continue to grow. So unless the right guy's available, I would not move on.
Chances make champions. Chances make champions, man.
You ain't wrong. If they can need to figure out their defense as well. That's the next biggest thing.
Oh yeah,
because their offense is great. They have really nice offensive pieces. They need to figure out if Gordon Hayward's sticking around and make some improvement on their defense. But there's talent there, no doubt about it. But as you said, Tyrik, I think making a step towards being like a solidified playoff team in the East is where they need to go. And LaMelo needs to get more opportunities for that to become a thing.
Yeah. They're going to have an interesting off season for sure. Hopefully they can get it big in there that's at least competent, because Mason Plumlee's so bad, bro.
Yeah, I don't think they really have much way of money, do they? Which is a problem.
Might have to trade Gordon Hayward, man, because in my eyes, you have to bring Miles Bridges back.
You have to, yeah. He has to come back.
I mean, if it's him or Gordon Hayward, I feel like that's like not a question.
Gordon's got 2 years left at about $31 million. So it's not unmovable.
I think if the right situation would be good for him. It's just a matter of he's an AD type of guy. Like, how many games is he going to play? When's he going to get hurt?
Yeah.
That's really the situation. Hell, maybe they trade him for Westbrook.
The problem, I think Gordon can fit somewhere well and just be like a really solid upper tier role player.
If he was on the Lakers, he'd be really good.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think
He
he'd
would
actually
be
be a good
good.
fit there.
He would be good on a lot of teams where they're not relying on him to do a ton. I think that's the difference between him and an AD type. It just sucks that he's paid like an AD type.
He's got a bag.
Michael Jordan is literally he's such a terrible owner, man. I'm sorry.
I actually didn't hate that move.
No,
Unpopular opinion.
I didn't hate it either. It was if he could stay healthy, which unfortunately he hasn't. It was a good deal. And if you're a team like Charlotte to bring in that type of talent, you're going to have to overpay a bit. So I don't mind it. There wasn't really a consensus at the time either that Miles Bridges was going to turn into as good as he is when that deal was signed. So, I mean, given he was still young, but we didn't really have those types of flashes from him to indicate that there was really going to be a ton of really good forwards on this team. So I didn't mind the deal, but now that we're a few years into it, if they can bring in a center with some money that they can open up with moving him, then I think that looks a little bit more intriguing. But without Miles Bridges signed next year, they are 108 million committed already.
Damn.
So there isn't really much room there to make many moves to get a center unless you're going in for a trade. But and again, free agency is very quiet this year, so you're likely not picking up a great center in free agency anyways, other than Mitch Robinson if someone goes after him. So
they better pick up Rudy Gobert, man.
Gordon Hayward back to Utah.
If you want to make a move that's like committed to just being a good team, I would do it. Why not?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know. I don't know if he's actually the type of big that I want with LaMelo. I think Mitchell Robinson would be better.
Well, yeah, I think I said a couple weeks ago that I didn't want Rudy to go there. I thought that it would limit their ceiling, but it's like
I feel like he would just slow them down. I don't like that.
Yeah, I feel like Charlotte have the talent to be more than just like 5-6 seed.
Bro,
but if they bring in Gobert, I don't know if they will be more than that.
They're one of the deepest teams in the league. Like, their rookies don't get playing time. And James Bouknight, when he's played, he's been really good.
He has been.
But he doesn't even get – he's in the G League half the time. Like, what? Yeah. Like, Kai Jones was supposed to be like, hey, we're going to get him some minutes this season. He hasn't even really touched the floor, basically. Deep team for a team that's, like, not, like, you know, super, like, elite. They're very deep. Like, they have a lot of playable guys.
They're just those young guns that run, man. What would take them over the top or at least to a different level is just instead of going back and forth getting quick buckets off other teams' made baskets, instead of that, you're getting a rebound and running in transition. Like, if you're just running that same style of just going quick, putting up a bunch of points, but you're getting stops and running transition, which is like the easiest way to score in the modern league, you're going to be great.
Yeah. That's why if they make the playoffs, they might get swept.
Yeah. It wouldn't shock me.
They might have one game where they could go crazy, but other than that, nah. This team's not built.
Well, yeah. If they're facing Miami, Miami's defense is probably dang near as good as Charlotte's offense, if not better.
Yeah.
But then Miami's offense is easily better than Charlotte's defense.
Yes.
If the Pacers end up going full rebuild, which they might, as Brogdon apparently is still available to be traded for, what do we think about Turner and Charlotte?
Love it.
We've talked about it so many times. I still think the team will lack rebounding to a certain degree, but like it's definitely an improvement.
I think maybe the best of Miles Turner has kind of been limited because he's been playing so much with Sabonis. Maybe he could be a little bit of a better rebounder than what his numbers say right now. But I think he fits what this team wants to do, space the floor. He's more mobile. He is very good like on switches and stuff defensively. I think he fits that mold. Depends on what you would have to give up. But I don't know. If you're committed to like having Melo and Terry as your backcourt, Bouknight's expendable, Kai Jones expendable, like that's what I would want if I was Indiana. I would want one of those young guys if I'm trading away Miles Turner.
I don't know though. It's like on the Pacers end, it's like, is Miles a guy that you would want to keep around with Tyrese though?
Thing is, he is still kind of like young. Like Miles is only like
He's only
10 years.
26.
He just turned 26 like recently, bro. He's
Yeah.
still like super
Yeah.
young for real.
He's 26 and he's not expected to be a star. He's just expected to be a good role player. So I feel like they could literally rebuild. I mean, they're already at the bottom of the conference with him on the roster now. And I think that he would fit well with Tyrese's game. So it's like at this point with the trades you made, you chose between him and Sabonis and you chose him. I don't see why you would get rid of the other one right away, especially when he's the more like malleable player in terms of fit.
Yeah, I agree with that. The only concern with that is Turner has 1 year left on his deal. So
Yes.
if you commit to a rebuild and that's not what he's interested in, he's gone in a year. So if indications are that he's not re-signing, I'd probably be looking to move him.
That's a conversation they got to have in their front office.
Yeah, 100%. Because you can't lose if you're a rebuilding team, or at least not a playoff team like the Pacers look like they'll be moving forward for at least the next year or two. Then you can't lose a player like Miles Turner for nothing.
Is TJ Warren still on that roster?
He is indeed being paid by the Indiana Pacers.
That is crazy.
I don't know if he's a free agent this year or next year. This summer.
My man's traded in
last
2
year.
years of basketball to go crazy in the bubble.
It was worth it, though. I'm going to be honest. People are going to talk about Bubble Warren forever. In 10 years, people are going to be like, bro, remember the bubble when TJ Warren was going crazy? If he never did that and played, if he averaged 18 points per game these 2 years, nobody's talking about him in 10 years.
He was Jordan in the bubble, bro. Like, you can't convince me otherwise. That man was going. I think he averaged like 37 in those I guess like the tune-up games is what they would call them. Like playing type games.
Man was going crazy.
Gave Ben Simmons 50, gave AD 39. Like, oh my God. That man TJ was on some other stuff.
Jimmy Butler shut that boy down, though. Jimmy Butler was making threes in his face, and Jimmy Butler does not make threes.
I still don't like my childhood memories is Jimmy Butler being a competent 3-point shooter, and then all of a sudden he goes to Miami, he just falls off a cliff, and I don't know what happened between then and now.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I swear, even in like the Philly days or like the Minnesota days, I swear he wasn't like that great of a shooter. But in the it reminds me of Luka early on, bro. Luka's 3-point numbers weren't great early on, but last 2 minutes of the game, bro, I would rather a 45% 3-point shooter take a shot in the final 2 minutes than Luka when he was shooting like 32%.
Nah, bro. When the Celtics played them a few weeks ago and it got down to, it was like a 5-point game with like a minute left, and he got the ball, I'm like, we're about to lose. I already saw it coming. Mans came down, hit a 3, and then Spencer Dinwiddie hit the game winner. I'm like, bro, I saw that, man. I saw it coming.
His clutch factor is ridiculous. Like, he's up there in that top echelon with like Kyrie and Dame in them. It's ridiculous.
Who would y'all say is the most clutch player in the league right now?
Luka Doncic right now at this very moment.
Okay. Clutch.
I haven't seen Kyrie in that moment enough recently, and Dame hasn't played at all this season. So at this very moment,
I want to say I still want to go with KD.
The Lakers have been losing all the close games, so I can't say LeBron, but LeBron did have a stretch where he was very clutch for a couple of years.
Yeah, I'd probably have to say KD or Luka. Giannis is good in his own right, but he's not like a perimeter bucket getter as much. Although Middleton has his moments where he's not quite at that tier. So yeah, I think KD or Luka.
DeMar though, DeMar has been crazy this season in the clutch.
Man, I need to see him be clutch in the playoffs before I can say that.
That's true.
I think Book has been very elite too in clutch situations.
He has that.
That's
one of the reasons I'm so high on the Suns is that they have two guys that are such good closers. Like how do you defend that? Like you don't.
I feel like you just
play make. They both can close. Like it's like how? And then you have DeAndre Ayton sitting in the paint with good shooters around them. Like it's so hard to defend that down the stretch.
Them boys don't need to clutch up much. When it comes down to late game half court offense, that's really the thing that slows down probably more teams than anything else is running a half court offense.
Yeah, for sure.
And so with the Suns having that crazy half court set, I mean, what can you do?
I would say they're probably the best half court team in basketball. I would say.
That's
Yeah,
what makes them that's really what
100%.
makes them the finals favorite. Like
Yeah.
every other
100%.
top team, it's like you think they run in transition, they get good timely buckets, they can run the occasional plays and sets, but Suns just are on a different tier.
And that's
Yeah.
why I'm low on Miami. I do not trust their half court offense.
Yeah, kind of the same with the Celtics. Like as good as the Celtics have been, their half court offense is not really amazing. It's not great. And in the playoffs, you have to be able to score in half court situations, man.
Yeah,
That's what makes Phoenix so scary. Even Brooklyn, that's what makes them so scary because they have two of the best, not only shot creators, but in the half court guys that can get to any spot and can also create for others. Not many other teams really have that. And we don't really trust James Harden right now, so we can't say him. You said Miami, their half-court offense is very poor. And then really out west, I mean, a lot of those teams only have one guy. You know, Donovan Mitchell, Luka, Jokic. Like those teams are kind of limited, man. The Suns definitely are the most well-rounded team. Like Gabe said, like they can do everything. They can fast break you. They can half-court you. If it's a defensive game, they got that down. Even if they're playing bad, they still find a way to win these games because they have two of the best closers in basketball.
I mean, we know the Warriors can run a half court set, but
Yeah,
we just need them to be on the floor together.
Yes.
But the thing with
Exactly.
Boston though is like their defense is so good. I feel like they can force transition opportunities and still score a lot of points that way, even in a playoff situation. Even when everybody's executing at the highest level, I still feel like they'll find ways to run out in transition. And so I don't think they'll be hindered as much as a lot of teams.
I'm scared they're going to rely on Jason Tatum too much to bail them out, which has kind of been the recipe for them in the playoffs the last couple of years. Which, you know, if you go back to like the bubble when they lost to Miami, you know, they were probably like Jason Tatum took a lot of hero ball shots down the stretch those first two games, and that's kind of what got them down 2-0 in that series. And you know, he's good enough to win you some playoff games, but it has to be more, man. Jaylen Brown has to be elite. And they have to be able to create like easy opportunities in the half court. They can't go on those 4 or 5 minute droughts without scoring a field goal.
Yeah, I fully agree. I have similar concerns with the Raptors as well with relying on Siakam.
I was about to say the same thing. Raptors don't have like a real, like super like floor general type guy. I mean, Fred VanVleet's definitely growing into a solid floor general, but it's like when you're talking about people at the level of like a Chris Paul or Draymond Green, he's not there.
No.
My thing with y'all, like when we played each other in the bubble, a lot of it was Kyle Lowry down the stretch. Like he was killing. Pascal was nowhere to be found. He has to redeem himself. And then, like you said, we got to see how Freddie is as the lead guard. Also, like see how Gary Trent plays. He hasn't been in the playoffs in a couple of years. Y'all, I think the Raptors are kind of scary in the fact that, you know, they kind of have nothing to lose because a lot of people did not expect them to be this good. But I'm also not so sure how they're going to play. I think matchups is really like key for y'all to make like a nice playoff run. Like if y'all play Philly, honestly, I'm kind of confident that y'all can beat them. Like all jokes aside, I really think that y'all can beat Philly.
Out of the top three, I think we match up pretty decent with Miami too. I don't think we'll make an Eastern Conference Finals run. Not even like I would not place any sort of money on it. But really, we got the best path we could. Facing Philly and Miami, as opposed like being a bottom four seed, the fact that you can get to the Eastern Conference Finals without facing Milwaukee and Boston is it's like we could make an Eastern Conference Finals run purely based on matchups.
Sometimes that's all that a team needs is just good matchups.
Facts. Big facts.
I mean, yeah, if Atlanta played the Nets or the Bucks last year in the semis, they're not going to the conference finals. So
Exactly.
If y'all lost in the first round, would y'all be disappointed?
No, I wouldn't.
It's not a disappointment if you lose when you're not favored. That's my general outlook is like if you're not favored in the series, then no, you didn't let anybody down. You did exactly what you were projected to do. And probably better. I don't think we were projected to be a 5 seed. I think we were projected to be like a 7 seed play-in team, to be honest with you.
I don't even think we were projected that high, to be honest. I'm pretty sure our over-under on wins on the year was 33.5. So
really?
I mean, this score.
Yeah, I wasn't high on the Raptors.
I mean, let's look at it this way. Like before the season, when you're looking at play-in teams, you're looking at like the Knicks, you're looking at the Pacers, you're looking at the Raptors, you're looking at if you're low on the Hawks, but most probably had them higher. Potentially the Bulls, depending on how high you were on them. The Hornets, like the Raptors were nowhere near comfortable in that scene. Like I think I had them as the 10 seed heading into the year. Like there was a legitimate argument that they were not going to even be in the play-in game. So the 5 seed and a near 600 record is way, way above pretty much anyone's even most lofty expectations for this team this year.
Agreed. Yeah.
So we lose in the first round as long as it's not a sweep. I'm good.
When I did my offseason videos on teams, I had like 4 teams left, and 3 of the teams were like definitely rebuilding teams, and I grouped the Raptors with them because I just didn't expect them to be this good this year. So
fair enough.
I was pretty low on Toronto, man.
I guess I was just higher because I'm like last year I didn't really think it was a fully indicative because of the Tampa thing, and then this team really just without Kyle was like a 2 or 3 seed in 2020. Like Kawhi left and we were like a 2 seed the year after. So I'm just like, okay, now remove Kyle, add honestly a high floor rookie. I still thought we could be like a 6-7 seed.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That 2020 team was crazy. I actually had y'all going to the finals that year.
That's kind of crazy. I feel like 2019 and 2020 the favorite was just the Bucks, and they didn't make it either year.
Yeah, or maybe I had y'all making at least the conference finals. I don't know. I might have still had the Bucks. I'm not sure.
As soon as the Bucks went under the radar is exactly when they like won it all.
That's what you need sometimes, man.
That makes me kind of worried for the Suns this year, because I'm like the Suns, they're pretty. As soon as they beat the Lakers last year, I think they got on the radar. And obviously this season they've been the team to beat. So it's like they might fall short this year, but if they do and people start to say, oh, they can't finish the job, that's when they'll come back. And the Suns are getting a ring under Monty. I would almost guarantee that.
I feel like this is probably their best opportunity right now.
I would agree.
Because
I don't know. I don't see anybody else stepping up that crazy next year unless Brooklyn does, but we see Brooklyn can never stay on the court together anyways.
I'm not really concerned about everyone else. I'm more concerned about Chris Paul.
I still think they'll be a really good team without Chris Paul, but they're not winning a championship without CP3.
Hey, never forget the 8-0 bubble Suns.
Cameron Payne to the rescue. Man rejuvenated his career in that bubble.
He was playing in China. He was really sitting in his hotel room in China debating his basketball future when Monty Williams gave him a call. And it changed everything.
Wasn't Ricky Rubio on that team too?
He might have been, yeah.
I don't know. He was on there at some point. I can't remember when he was on there and when he was with the Jazz. It was like
2019-20 he was with Phoenix.
Yep. Then he got traded in the offseason.
Yeah.
Not bad, man.
Was that what he got traded back to Mini?
Yep.
Yeah, he got traded back to Mini.
Did he play there? Yeah, he played one season there, didn't he?
He played 1 year, played 68 games.
Last season feels like a blur.
Fully does. Man got traded for Torian Prince and a second-round pick. And before he got injured, he was arguably a 6th man of the year candidate.
He was.
Statistics wouldn't have supported it, but eye test definitely would have.
Hey, I just remember he had the game in Madison Square Garden where he was going ballistic.
Man, who doesn't do that?
Facts. If you have a big game in the Garden, you're etched in NBA history forever.
Trae Young has had a lot of them by now.
Oh, that's his second home.
Yeah, Trae Young actually plays like 43 home games a year instead of 41. It's really a crazy statistic.
No, facts.
It's just like how I think the Lakers play 43 home games too. Because when the Clippers are hosting, that's a home game.
No, they can't win them, but
they lose them, but it's a home game. There's definitely still more Lakers fans there.
Definitely.
I wonder what the payout would be if you put a bet that the Lakers would win less than 40 games this year.
I saw a post a couple of days ago about a bet with the Lakers not making the playoffs. I do not remember what it was, but it was a nice payout, that's for sure.
It all circles back to the Lakers, man.
It really does. We need to stop
Really
doing
does.
that.
This you guys wonder why LeBron got brought up in every conversation for the past 18 years. Like
The guys like us.
this is just NBA discourse. He's everywhere. You can't avoid it, whether it's his team or what he's doing. He's the king, man.
Although in fairness, half the time Charlotte and Utah get brought up in this podcast every week as well. So,
bro, so does Sacramento.
Like one thing you can say about our podcast is we talk about the small market teams, but they are the same ones. But we talk about them.
There's barely any. There's barely any Wizards talk or like Magic talk on here. I feel like we've talked about the Pacers and the Pistons a fair amount of times.
We talked about France earlier, and then we mentioned that the Wizards were the 1 seed for a stretch early on in the season.
There you go.
You're right.
You know what's crazy? I was talking so much stuff because I made a video in the offseason. I'm like, this is gonna be a play-in team at least, and that was looking so good for a while, and then they just fell off a cliff. I'm like, let me go back into hiding.
I mean, hey, in your defense, Bradley Beal did kind of sell them by going out.
He also wasn't playing that great at all this year compared to the year previous. So.
And when he started playing good, they started playing bad as a team.
Whatever that is with Bradley Beal, man, when he performs, the Wizards just don't. Man,
he needed to ask out, bro. He literally was like the number one player that needed to ask out because his value was so high and that team is going nowhere on his timeline.
I'm not really that high on Bradley Beal.
What? Yeah, now his value's like in the tank.
I never was that high on him.
But I think a lot of people were, and that's the thing. A lot of people were high on him.
Yeah.
But then because he didn't capitalize on that, now his value is probably only going down, and now he's just going to sit and rot in Washington. And if that's what you want to do, okay. Yeah. But at this point, if I'm Washington, why would I give Bradley Beal another max contract if him doing well?
Not a max. The highest paid player in NBA history is what he's going to end up getting from them.
Which is crazy to me. I'm like, the better he plays, the worse the team gets.
Well, we'll have to have a Beal KP discussion, assuming he gets re-signed, because KP has looked good the last couple of weeks. I'll give him that. So
he's looked solid. They have pieces, man. I like the team that they have. It's just what's the ceiling? A 6 seed, maybe?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. If they're happy with that, hey, I love it then, I guess. Man.
All right, man. We should probably wrap
it up.
Yeah.
Here's your Wizards talk, Wizards fans.
Thanks.
Touching everyone. Got to talk about them all. Can't say we don't represent the small markets, although we haven't talked about OKC, but OKC is that's an off-season topic once the draft comes around. Then they'll get all their talks.
Yeah,
so.
It's like the teams like OKC and Portland who like they're rebuilding, and while they're rebuilding, their top players still aren't playing. Yes. That's when you're not getting talked about.
Yeah. We're about to be in the playoffs. We'll get back to everyone else in a couple months.
Shout out to Jalen Horde. He's been having some nice games lately. That's my OKC talk.
Thank you guys for tuning in today. Be sure to let us know your picks for the award winners, all NBA teams, and we'll be sure to give our thoughts on the playoffs over the course of the week before we get started on that with the playing games on Tuesday and the playoffs following a few days later. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate your continued support, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.